everybody. Again, my name is Harvey, and I'm a master trainer of the Living Well with Chronic Conditions program. It is my pleasure to be here today, and I'm going to go over a couple views of the program, and I'm going to kind of hit it on two views. I'm going to hit it and talk to you about it as a facilitator and a master trainer for the program and tell you all about the program. But I also want to discuss it with you as a participant, as an individual with chronic illness. So I want to discuss both and talk to you about both. And the first one, if you don't mind, I'm going to talk a little bit about myself and how I got here, and a little bit about me and my condition, because it really has a lot to do with why I am standing here today and what I do and why I have a passion for it. When I was 4 years old, I came down with polio. Some of you here probably have friends or family that were affected by polio, maybe even some of you. Well, it wasn't too bad for me. For about 5 or 6 months, I was bedridden, and I was 4 years old. What did I know? You know, I just thought a lot of TV time. And as I got better and things started, I guess, coming together physically for me after a lot of therapy, I was up and about and being a kind of a normal child. My parents may not have agreed with that, but I was kind of a normal child. And I was doing a lot of normal things and just growing up. I ran a little bit with a flat foot. You remember that, where people's feet, they used to call it a flat foot. And I grew up and became athletic and did a lot of things that all my friends did, and really didn't think about the polio when I was 4 years old, and just went on to have, as I mentioned, somewhat of a normal life. Well, then, as I was in the business that I was in, and I was in, fortunately, I had many, many years. I was in business with my father here in Milwaukee, and we owned a company for a lot of years. I was in the automobile industry. And that type of business kept me working a lot. As my father used to say, you only have to work when the lights are on. When they're off, we get to go home, and we do all, and that's our time off. And I thought, okay, that was great, until all of a sudden I was starting to feel, or having some issues. I was becoming very tired towards the end of the day. I was getting some weakness in my left leg. I was only in my mid to late 30s, and all of this was coming upon me, and I couldn't figure it out. Never did I think had anything to do when I was younger. Well, as that actually started to progress, and my illness, as I was learned, got worse, I was diagnosed with post-polio syndrome. First time I ever heard about that. And it was a condition that was an atrophy and a weakness that was going to progress. And I was thinking, well, what is this going to do to me? I'm working all the time. I had children. Everything was, you know, as you do, kind of going, as I use the word often enough, pretty much normal. All of a sudden I had this earth-shattering revelation that, wow, you know what? Sometimes we don't think about our health enough until we don't have it. And that was my revelation. All of a sudden, I was having a health condition issue in my late 30s that was going to change my life. And that's how it progressed. I was not fighting it, but I was working with it, and I was dealing with it until my days got to be shorter, because towards dinner time, I couldn't work anymore in the evening. And then some Saturdays I couldn't go in because I worked Monday through Friday, and I just was way too tired. Or more pain. I was dealing with more pain, and I wasn't able to sleep at night. And a lot of these things that I was learning about wasn't something that I was expected. Of course, who expects to have a chronic illness? We don't plan for that. When we're in school, we learn about math, and we learn about history, we learn about social studies, but there's no class on. By the way, as you get older, in case you come down with a chronic illness, you're going to be challenged with a lot of changes in your life. And this is what I was facing at the time. And I'm not telling you this to ask for sympathy, because that's not what I'm here for. But I'm kind of telling you this is how I started on my journey. And I learned at that time also that it was going to be a journey that I did not plan, but it was going to be a journey a lot different than I thought I would be facing at the time. And my road with the chronic illness had a lot of bumps in the road. It had a lot of curves and things that I had to face growing up. After a number of years of dealing with this and being in the car business and raising a family and doing all the activities that I tried to do, I was working with crutches, a cane like this, either one or two depending upon how I felt, and trying to get through my day that way. As I got into my mid-40s, that's when my changes really started coming around, because I couldn't work the hours I used to work. I couldn't put the effort in to run a business anymore. Things were changing. And again, I wasn't ready for them. I'd be the first one to admit things happened fast in my mind. Even though it took 5 or 7 years, I wasn't, when you're 46 years old, that's not the time to retire. As much as it sounds great to some people, I don't fish, I don't golf, it's not the time to retire. Well, because the doctors were pushing me to do so, as well as my family, I had to sell my business at the age of 46. And when you come home from doing that, and you're sitting at the table and saying, okay, now what do I do with my life? That was a real life-changing experience for me. Also, during that time period, I had a master bedroom. Our master bedroom was on the second floor of our house. Loved our house, but those 15 stairs, I never counted them before, but those 15 stairs got to be harder to go up and to come down. So my wife and I sat down for a while and with our children and said, can't keep this house anymore. It's too hard for Dad to get to bed at night and get up in the morning and come downstairs, so we got to do something about it. So there again, another change that I had to go through. Wasn't ready for that either. But we were fortunate able to do it. We sold our house and then went to a house that had a first floor master, which was great for me. I could get around a lot easier. Then, of course, your activities change because you get tired at night or you get sore and you say, oh, I can't do that the nights I used to do that, or I can't be as active as I wanted to be. And okay, more changes, more challenges, more things that I had to adjust to. And I was very, very fortunate because I had a marvelous wife. I still have a marvelous wife. And wonderful children that supported my every need. And that was great because without them, I don't know where I would be. The problem I had wasn't with them or the lack of support. The problem I had was with me. It was me that I was having issues with because it was me that was having difficult times adjusting living with a chronic illness. At the time, I was also, and I still am, very active in a group called Post-Polio Resource Group, which is here in Milwaukee. And we have over about 150 active members, and I'm president of that group. And I had more time on my hands because now I was working part-time, fortunately for the automobile group that bought me, kept me on as a part-time employee, which was very, very important because I had at least some place to go a few hours a day. And this group that I'm affiliated with, I'm always looking for more programs and more things to do for this group. And I'm on the computer one day and I'm researching, different self-management things that I can do for myself. Because I realized that was what I was lacking. I needed something for myself here. And I came across a program that was developed, and it was researched and developed out of Stanford University in their medical research department. It was called Chronic Disease Self-Management. Chronic Disease Self-Management. Well, okay, I realize the fact I have a chronic disease, and I really need some self-something. So the more I researched it, and I'm a pretty tenacious guy, I even went to a point where I called people all over the country that were listed there that taught these classes, or were affiliated with these classes, because I wanted to know what is with this class that might interest me. The more I spoke to these people, the more I learned, and I spent months doing this, I believe it was 5 or 6 months, gathering all the information I could. I realized this is really important because this helped people develop skills dealing to help them self-manage their conditions and self-manage their challenges and help them believe in themselves. And I needed that. Because at a time, I was worried. I didn't know what tomorrow would bring. I had that horrible fear of the unknown. And I'm thinking, okay, I have to get back on the road and I have to believe in myself. So I took all of this information to a local hospital group, and I was fortunate enough to know somebody in management there, and said, wow, this is like 4 years ago, 4.5 years ago. I said, this is a program that I don't know if we have it here. I don't think so. The Milwaukee area, this is even bigger than our post-polio group. We need to do something about this. Look at this program, read about it. And I had all this information and all the studies, and fortunately they said, you're right. You're right, we need this. This program is big. This is important. So they sponsored myself and a good friend of mine who also had post-polio, who also had to retire at her late 40s. And they sent us to Stanford University for training, which was a marvelous experience because I trained from the individual that basically wrote the program for a week. It was great. And the more I'm taking this class, I went there for 2 reasons. I realized that, first of all, this is what I want to do, because this program needs to be shared throughout the whole community. There's so many people that could use this. And then on the other side, I'm thinking, wow, this is good for me. I need this. This is going to help me with my life. After taking the training and on the plane home, I remembered, I said, you know, again, I've been fortunate. I've had a lot of opportunities in the world, and life has been good to me. Life did not throw me a wrench. It threw me an opportunity. In that plane ride home, I said, you know what? I'm ready to change my life. I'm ready to go on the path that I'm directed to go on right now. And I'm going to take this program and I'm going to share it. This is what I want to do. When we came back and I spoke to other individuals and we developed this program around the community, we thought that chronic disease self-management program was good, but we had to give it a little more life. Well, I think so too, because I don't know if you'd read about it if that's what it was, but we called it Living Well with Chronic Conditions. And many of us who have chronic conditions say, it's pretty tough to do. How do you live well with chronic conditions? Well, we're not calling it living better with chronic conditions. It is living well with chronic conditions. So that's where we started. We started taking this program to others like yourself and seeing what it can do. And I have to tell you, I stand up here now and I have taught over 20 classes to over 350 individuals. And I have been so fortunate, I'm so fortunate to tell you, for everybody that has been in this class, for everybody who has taken this program, it has made a difference. So as I mentioned to you at the beginning, it made a difference in my life, and I was blessed to find it. But the most important thing I am finding, what gives me my strength and what gives me my energy, it makes a difference for others in their lives. So now that I've teased you a little bit about it, what is living well with chronic conditions? Well, it's a workshop, but it's not work. It's something that, it's a class made up between 12 and 15 individuals who meet 1 day a week for 2.5 hours for 6 weeks. Seems like a lot of time. Seems like, well, 15 hours, that's a long time. It's a long time to commit. But when I tell you all that we cover, you will see it's really not enough time, because there's more for us to do and there's more for us to learn. But with all of the challenges we have, because our lives change. Our lives change and we are challenged every day. We ourselves can do more for us.